Hey you geeks! Only one chapter this time, but boy, is it a doozy. With next week, I'll be recording here, but posting from Salt Lake City as I prepare for Dragonsteel Nexus. Hope to see you guys there if you're able. I plan to have a non-spoiler review of Wind and Truth up the week after that, so you can just read at a leisurely pace. Well, I don't. Not that I would anyway. For now, I will dive on into all of my spoilery thoughts of Chapter 33. For now, let us finish the end of Day 2. The Girl Who Grew Up. Don't you just hate it when you preemptively call something so perfectly and use the perfect clip that just sums up all your thoughts on the topic, only for the very next week your theory to be confirmed, and now you can't recycle the footage?
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.
Granted, followers of this series probably hasn't seen me have this problem very often, but not today, Odium, not today. I'm talking about my prediction that it was Lift and Gav who were both hiding in the air vent, and that Lift, like any good Sanderson protagonist, is feeling the pull between who she is now and who she really should become. Within that light, she saw herself as she could have been, standing tall and proud, unafraid of the future, because of the hand of someone loving resting on her shoulder. Would she have become that girl, that confident young woman with gleaming hair, wearing an irreally short skirt and her shoulders and midriff exposed? As if she didn't care that people saw she was growing up. This version of her didn't seem to be afraid of anything. Through Lift's very unique set of powers, this dichotomy, often in the subtext for others, is made quite literal. It appears that she has cultivation's talent for fortune, and this is the first we're really seeing of it outside of cultivation herself. Sanderson drops further hints of the peculiarities of the powers of Lift as Hoyd remarks on the strength of her life force that makes him blind to all other living people in the vicinity. Oops! More on that later. For now, let's focus on Wit's decision to keep this whole snafu from public view and his insistence that Dalinar must personally be back in 8 days' time. But if he doesn't show up because of his own choices, I believe that will be a forfeit. It will be as if Dalinar broke the contract, violating his oath, as Dalinar represents honor, the power of which is maintaining Odium's place on this planet. If Dalinar doesn't show up, that will liberate Odium entirely. This also means that Odium has no incentive whatsoever to get Dalinar back to Urithiru in time for the duel, unless Taravangian is actually that petty that he wants to beat Dalinar personally and not through a technicality.
For God's sake, get me to the church on time.
But at the heart of it all, I just wish Sanderson had given us an appendix of the actual words of the actual contract and not having to rely on what was said at the end of Rhythm of War and whatever Wit tells us now, because my common sense is just screaming void for vagueness and violation of statute of frauds on this. Like, I can't even. But if we go back to the conversation, it seems that the champions remained anonymous until Dalinar opened his fat mouth. I know my champion. Do you know yours? I do, Dalinar said. Then let us stop dancing and commit. On the 10th, our champions meet. My life, Odium? I intend to be my own champion. I'll have died if you win. Yes, Odium said, eyes shining golden, you will have, and you will give your soul to me. So it seems that Dalinar volunteering this information has bound him personally to be Honor's champion in a way that the anonymous Odium's champion of a few days ago is no longer bound and no longer likely to be the champion now that Odium is under new management. If Odium sending a different champion than originally intended would void the whole thing for him, then that would be a very convenient loophole that I would be shocked for Hoyd to have left out when he described what Odium being under new management meant a few chapters ago. For now, the messenger of the gods is telling us that Dalinar has to be back personally in 8 days, and we just have to trust him. We also now know that the only one who's physically present at Urithiru who is aware of this problem is Lift, who can conveniently still slip in and out of the spiritual realm, though possibly not as she has ever done before. Can you do something, Lift asked, stepping up to him and squatting down? Bring them back? The times I cheated my way in, I had Dalinar to guide me. I don't know, Wit said softly. I warned them. I will try to think of something that will help. It may take time. So it seems that Lift's quest for Wind and Truth is going to be something like harnessing the cognitive aurora of the high storm that also serves as a perpendicularity and using that to guide the lost radiant home.
Jenna.
The boy who didn't. On the topic of particularly relevant 90s movies, it seems that Gav has in fact been sucked into the spiritual realm, and you in the comments were more right than I, as I did not envision that the physical realm would have the same suction vortex effect as the cognitive. I did figure that Hoyd would stay out of it because, well, he's Hoyd no matter what happened, and for that I was right. But poor Gav has now been taken into a place beyond the edge of the map where there be monsters and pirates. Although Dalinar loves Gavinor, Gavinor has felt rather strain in their connection these past few days, and with his history of trauma, he has sort of a strong connection to Odium, ironically, meaning that if Gavinor does appear in the spiritual realm, he might show up on Odium's radar, and this new Odium would totally take advantage of that.
For never letting me jump on my own bed.
Make time stand still, laddie.
I don't want to sound like a broken record when it comes to the child champion theory, but at this point, we are beyond red herring stages and into actual plot implementation, and I am scared. And kind of excited, actually. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Stew. Finally, something Kaladin can't do. Cook. Maybe more pepper? He sprinkled it in and tried the mess, which now tasted like slightly spicier creme. He groaned in frustration and slumped on his rock. I doubt that present Szeth, with his inability to make up his own mind, also has super secret cooking skills which he could unleash and help Kaladin as they go on this journey, especially because Szeth finds Kaladin's work passable. Perhaps learning to cook will be the method that Kaladin finally uses to connect with Szeth and teach him that listening to his own conscience is a good thing.
Now, imagine every great taste in the world being combined into infinite combinations, tastes that no one has tried yet, discoveries to be made!
For now, though it was terrible, Kaladin's soup seems to have done the trick, and Szeth opened up about returning them to his old family homestead. Maybe his sister will be there, the flautist, who could maybe show Kaladin a thing or two about playing the flute. Though I don't think it will be that easy, but the days are ticking down and something has to happen. Variations on a theme. As readers, we've been privy to Szeth's inner dialogue and his understanding that his mental state is what he deserves because of all the bad things he's done. But now he's opened up to Kaladin and fully explained that aspect of himself. When I say I need no help, it is because this is how I should be. I have murdered many innocents. Because of this, I deserve suffering. It is right. If you were to heal it, you would do something immoral. Therefore, I tell you, I do not want your help. Leave me alone. I find it very interesting that this as the Almighty hath ordained mentality is the same problem that Kaladin and his family faced while living in Hearthstone as mere surgeons. It ain't right what they do, the woman's voice said. You ain't supposed to cut into folks, peering in to see what the Almighty placed hidden for good reason. This particular comparison hasn't struck Kaladin yet, this book, though it did appear in Rhythm of War. He's got a lot in his mind, however, so I'll cut him some slack. However, learning from the past to foretell the future, I foresee that Szeth, like the people of Hearthstone, will possibly disavow and continue to object to Kaladin's meddling. But when the going gets tough and Szeth is forced to face a moral question where he may have a herald on one side, his spren, and an unmade all in a massive standoff in his head, he's going to turn to someone to tell him what to do. That person might be Kaladin, who will instead help him make up his own mind. I really hope this happens before day 10. A single shard. Despite Kaladin's poor flute playing, the wind does come to him and efficiently informs him that Odium is under new management. Thus, as one of the major Spren of Roshar, she is the most helpful per word we have in this series. The wind seems altruistic enough, though her goal, while easily said, is less easily understood. Stay. Watch. I will too. I do not have answers yet, but I feel better that you are here. Together, we must preserve a remnant of honor. Somehow. My fellow Wheel of Time readers out there may find familiar the wind's desire to preserve a remnant, a fragment of a fragment, as it were, of honor. But this preservation, in Wheel of Time at least, comes after a very specific breaking. A breaking that may be more deadly to honor than whatever it is Odium did all those years ago. This somewhat changes my thoughts on how honor could be stored in the hearts of men in future. After the siblings' warning that honor's disconnect from the physical realm will have him hating men, singers, and spren, it sounds like honor may now think that the love of men is a frigid thing, a mountain stream only 3 steps from the ice. We are his. Oh, Stormfather, we are his. Since first reading The Way of Kings, I've always assumed that the his referred to Odium and oh, Stormfather was an epithet. However, now that we've gotten to know the Stormfather a bit more, I begin to wonder if being of honor and of the Stormfather ain't that great of a thing anymore. Perhaps only a remnant of honor, only that small part of that shard that is still oriented towards the common good will be worth saving. And in the way of infinite things, a tiny remnant will be enough still to fill the hearts of all honorable men, singers, and spren on Roshar.
In short, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I am the very model of a modern major general.
But before before we consign ourselves entirely to a fate of doom and gloom and Sanderlanche, we get a Lopin perspective. And I can appreciate having some levity in this very tense situation, especially because Lopin seems to be the perfect example of what Noadon is talking about in these latest epigraphs. So think, my dear reader, as a soldier retreats from a battle he cannot win, as a king leaves a people with the gift of his absence, so that they may grow and solve their own problems, without his hand to always guide them. May you have the courage someday to walk away, and the wisdom to recognize that day when it arrives. Sanderson clearly enjoyed the brutal irony of putting the epigraph of a king leaving his people on the very chapter that Dalinar gets yeeted from the physical realm.
Erased from existence.
But according to Wit, Dalinar's absence will not allow his people to solve their own problems. In fact, it will just create one massive problem that we will all have to deal with eventually. However, on the microcosm, Lopin demonstrates what it looks like for a soldier to evaluate a field and know when he's got nothing more to do there. I'm going to assume that others have it covered, he told Asasic. Come on, we need to fly the Minx people to Herdaz. But if they're dead, can we do anything for them? If they vanished into another realm, dimension, or place, is there anything we can do for them? No, Asasic said, floating up again. That would take a bondsmith. So, we report back, Lopin said. We've searched to make sure they aren't being held captive. Now, we have to assume it's all going to work out because whatever is going on, it's bigger than we are. Apologies for the Lopin voice. It was an attempt. Perhaps Lopin isn't as far from his fourth ideal as Cal or Isasic is from theirs, but knowing Lopin, it will probably happen in a very undramatic way possible, and probably on day 11, so I really hope he gets a day 11. 10th Fool. You know, if we hadn't seen the Stormfather and the Ishar in the same scene together and talking to each other, I would really start to fear that even Dalinar's Stormfather is really Ishar in a wig. I know every other piece moving on this board, but I thought you were insignificant. Now you are here with the Truthless, bonded to the Ancient Daughter. What is your name? Kaladin, he replied, sometimes called Stormblessed. Stormblessed? I do not remember blessing you.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
And yet, there's just something weird here. Dalinar's Stormfather has never shown the same amount of concern for Sylphrena's well-being that the giant face in the clouds seems to have said, at least when talking to Sylphrena herself, in her Rhythm of War interlude. Spren once let themselves become consumed by the needs of the Radiance, and that killed them. Now, many of my children have followed your foolish path, and are in great danger. This is our world. It belongs to the Spren. Of course, Syl doesn't point out to the Stormfather's lack of faith his own hypocrisy here, assuming that it was he who actually bonded Dalinar at the same time. She goes on to imply that Kaladin will be Honor's own champion, and her Stormfather implies that he won't be. Yet it's all very subtle and not, well, my Radiant, Dalinar, assumes he will be, and he's the bondsmith, so go blow some breeze. Of course, the Stormfather may have been showing discretion, and we know that the Stormfather can be rather discreet about those things he does not want to talk about. But there's something rotten here in the state of Shinovar, and I want answers. Suddenly, Ishar here is saying that he is responsible for Zeth's little truthless escapade? Zeth has come to fulfill the task I set for him many years ago. His path will be difficult. If you would have my ear, prove to me you can be of service. In what way? Syl asked. In helping me prepare for the end, Ishar said softly. The Truthless has returned at last. This land needs him. But when we had Zeth's story as for why he was exiled from his homeland back in chapter 21, he implied at least that it was an unmade and had nothing to do with Ishar. We do not know where Ishar, or Ishu, sun god, as we know him, is hiding. Plus, there is something dangerous in this land. My mission here involves a cleansing and retribution ode to the people of Shinovar. One of the unmade is here, Zeth said, awakened years before you became a radiant, before the first oaths were sworn. My people have embraced it for some reason, and welcomed in its darkness and its manipulations. While I myself have theorized that Ishi is Ishi for the Stormlight Archive, responsible for so many things behind the scenes, Sanderson now has me questioning that. First reminding me of something Hoyd told Shallan back in Oathbringer. Other men stand to the side when the boulder of time passes, but are quick to say, see what I did? I made the boulder roll there. Don't make me do it again. These men end up getting everyone else squished. Shallan ran into actual men like this when she took down the Sons of Honor at the beginning of Rhythm of War, so we know that this is a theme that Sanderson likes to return to. Not to mention there's that time in the Chasms when Kaladin felt like one of the 10 fools in front of Shallan. Kaladin felt like one of the 10 fools. Actually, he felt like all of them. 10 times an idiot. Most specifically, Eshu, who spoke of things he did not understand in front of those who did. As a person who often gets feedback on her pronunciation of vowels, it seems very interesting that Eshu is only one vowel sound away from Ishu, the Shin name for Ishar himself. So while one part of me wants it to have been Ishar all along, another part of me wants to roll my eyes when he says things like he is the conflux of all sorrow and he bears the true weight of the Oath Pact, and go,
Sure you did.
While we won't get closure on this problem in the preview chapters, we will, hopefully, by the end of Wind and Truth. Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment on your thoughts. What are you looking forward to in what's left of Wind and Truth? Thanks for watching. Bye!